Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live with Normal. I'm J.M. Padini, the Development Director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. It's Friday, August 16th, 2024. You know what that means? It's time for me to answer all of your burning questions live. Hey, take a quick second to hit that like, follow, or subscribe button wherever you're watching so you never miss when Normal goes live. And drop me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. And let me know if you have any burning questions. Montgomery on Instagram. Can you hear me now? Is there sound now? Hot sugar. The weekend is in fact here. I'm very excited for it. Hey James. Thanks for joining us. Cannabis Pete in Sydney. Wow. Wow. Thanks for joining us. Hey Johnny in Cincinnati. Hi Tree. Hi Nick. Hi Skyline. Hi Chris. Happy Friday. Chris watching in Hampton, Virginia. I'm just gonna say, person watching on Instagram asking if I am in the Commonwealth. The answer is yes. I'm in Scott's Edition in Richmond, Virginia. Have a safe and productive weekend yourself as well. I don't plan to have a productive one. I want it to be very not productive. But I do plan to be safe. Hopefully refreshing as well. I have not looked at the weather. Am I going to be disappointed? Hey, Chocolate in Connecticut. Good to see you. Hey, Woodyard in Rich Creek. All right. Hey, who's got questions? Oh, great. Thank you for the weather update from Virginia. It's been just delightful here, hasn't it? Montgomery and Kalamazoo. All right. Hey, Wade, happy Friday to you. Let's talk about some news. So toward the beginning of the week, my calendar's on July, so that's not gonna help me to stare up there and look at it. But earlier, or we'll just say earlier this week, we reported on some great news out of North Carolina. I feel like I should do this in two sections because it's going to get weird on YouTube. North Dakota, for the third time, will have legalization on the ballot. This will be the third time North Dakota voters are going to try to knock it out of the park. If approved, if this ballot measure for legalization that North Dakotans see in November, if it's approved, adults 21 and older will be permitted to purchase products from licensed retailers or cultivate up to 3 plants at home for their own personal use. And retail sales, are you listening, Virginia? Retail sales would begin no later than October 1st, 2025. What a smart move, North Dakota, to have an actual specified sales date. Seems like that's what states do. Virginia. Hey, Cannabis Pete asking about Australia. We have had a chapter in Australia before. Would you like to start one? Because you can. Just you and 3 of your friends. That's all you need. If you head, the fastest way to tell you how to find this is to go to normal.org/chapters. You go to the Normal website, chapters is right there at the top of the page. Click on that, and there's a little blurb that says, if you want to start one, click here. It doesn't say that, but it says something like that. Now you can figure it out. and then it'll take you to the application page. Hi, Ian. I was talking about you yesterday, Ian. It was good things, of course. So hope you felt that. Hey, Randy, good to see you. Hey, James, that's James has added some commentary here that I'm going to share. James says that Assembly Bill 2555 in California has passed and now goes to the governor. And what this bill does is continues tax-free exemptions for donated medical cannabis for 5 more years. And this is medical cannabis that would otherwise be destroyed. So great. I assume we expect the governor will sign that. We should never assume anything. Thanks for letting me know, James. So good news, North Dakota. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the second time. I got ahead of myself. This is only the second time North Dakota's voted on it. They voted on it in 2022, and it didn't pass. But we appreciate the tenacity of activists in North Dakota. We're leaning really heavily on this issue. A New Economic Frontier is the group behind this particular ballot measure in North Dakota. So, good job. If you know someone in North Dakota, make sure they know to vote yes. Speaking of voters, let's do a delightful little segue here. Speaking of voters, there was some polling done on swing state voters, likely voters in swing states. This is Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And it turns out, lo and behold, likely voters in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin strongly support legalizing marijuana for adults, allowing medical cannabis access, and rescheduling cannabis at the federal level. So all 3 of those issues were polled independent of each other, and they all garnered strong support from likely voters in those 3 states. Oh, look at this. I'm not making my comments correctly. I'm not sharing these correctly. Great. This is what happens when you got to do it yourself. I'm doing super. There we go. I was trying to make sure the link was not cut in half for YouTube, because YouTube does weird stuff. Whatever. Okay. So. Oh, hey, Matthew. Let me read your question here. Okay, this is a big one, so I'm going to read it to everyone. Matthew asks this. Can I comment on the impact of illicit oil and products? So illicit products into a legal system. Like, Matthew, you mean when illicit products make it into a regulated program? Because regulators, what are you doing? And how states can regulate against that effectively. Many people think most states are overregulated. I mean, I agree with you. That's a common refrain, Matthew, that we hear people say. Internet warriors like that claim, but I don't think that that's necessarily the case in reality. However, many people do think, as Matthew says, that most states are overregulated and that is driving up the cost of production. I would agree with that. Regulations can be onerous and can increase prices. That's something Virginia has seen, but it does not have to do with overregulation. It has to do with lack of retail locations, which in turn further incentivizes operators to turn to the illicit market for product. Yeah, so there's a lot to this question, Matthew. I really appreciate you asking it. And at no point in time should illicit products be making it into a regulated program. And if they are, that's a significant failure on the part of the regulator to appropriately regulate. I was trying to use a better word, but but that's what it's going to be. Appropriately seed to sale, track and regulate those products. But yes, regulations can be particularly onerous on cannabis operators. The cost of doing business means higher prices for consumers, and when products are priced too high, consumers go elsewhere. And it looks like from your comment, you're of the opinion that when costs are too high, that's incentivizing operators to then get products from the illicit market. How to combat against that? I think that the good news, Matthew, is we have over 2 decades of real world regulatory experience with cannabis in the United States. So no one is reinventing the wheel here. And we can simply look at what's working the best in all of the states of this patchwork of regulations that we have. We can look at organizations like NORML, of course. We publish on this and sort of like what each state is doing and doing well. We publish a report on that. CANRA is going to be able to provide some best practices resources as well to regulatory authorities. But yeah. I mean, I think that it's easier to comment on a state by state basis, and heart scoot over just to like a little tiny bit. I think I mean, it's certainly easier to pick apart on a state by state basis and say, well, in this state, this is why prices are so high, and this is what they could be doing better based on their certain regulatory model. Like some states don't even mandate independent third-party analytical laboratory testing, and that's disgusting. That's irresponsible and gross. Some states have, had to amend their laws so that products don't expire in 6 months. We just did that here because obviously products don't expire in 6 months when they don't involve food. And that's going to be a cost saving to those companies. But what has the potential to create cost savings for these legal and licensed cannabis operators is potentially rescheduling. With rescheduling, again, potentially, these legal and licensed state cannabis operators would then be able to take standard business deductions on their taxes, which they cannot do right now. Hey, thanks everyone on Instagram who just started following us. Appreciate that. If you're watching us on Instagram and you didn't just start following us, why not? Thanks for your question. Matthew Ann says, North Dakota, what a great place to grow a tropical plant. Listen. You gotta do what you gotta do. Michigan, thank you for that example of Michigan, Matthew. Hey, Mike in Anaheim, good to see you. And Tree, listen, look, sometimes you're not wrong. Tree adds the problem is the people making the regulations know nothing about cannabis. That certainly can be the case in some states. And Tree, to that point, there are states that think they have to reinvent the wheel, that they are the first state to ever regulate this plant, which is stupid. Like, it's just not even. Let's just call it what it is. Like, if you think that, then get over yourself. Got it. I see. Thank you, Matthew, for that clarification. Yeah, it is what I would agree. I hear other people say things like that too. Here and Listen asks who would be better on regulation. Do you mean on a state by state basis, like at a state level? Think because I think that some states offer more than others. I have a lot of expertise in Virginia because I live here, and I can say that when it comes to consumer safety, Virginia has really fantastic regulations. Shocking, I know, but when it comes to consumer access, Virginia has both really fantastic regulations and then really terrible ones. There are not enough dispensaries in the state with 8.5 million people. Likewise, Virginia Democrats and Republicans both made terrible decisions that led to the state legalizing adult use in 2021. But that wasn't the bad choice. That was a great choice in 2021. But here we are in 2024, over 3 years later, 3 years, 1 month, and 2 weeks, well, 15 days. And there's still no retail access for adult use products. There's only retail access for medical patients. So again, like in each state, you can find some great stuff and some terrible stuff. And I know that we have, I know we have a report on this. And I want to find it, but also it'd be better if I had a producer that could find this for me right now. But hey, look, we're already this far down the rabbit hole. Let's take a peek at it. Okay, so the last time we did this report was 2022, and it's marijuana policies in legal states. So you can see a little bit of this here, Matthew, and here and Listen. You can take a peek at it and see, at least in 2022, where we were at a comparative level across states and who was doing what. Of course, there are going to be some states that have taken action since then that are not included in this report. But there you go. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Ellie. Wade, I mean, you know. I don't know, Nick. What? Oh, all right. What it do on Twitter asks, what would a left and right view of home grow look like? By left and right, I'm assuming you mean like Democrat, Republican. Is that? I'm going to answer it in that context until you tell me otherwise. What would Democrat and Republican examples of personal cultivation look like, and are there current examples of these models? Any intrigue in either viewpoints on this? So, I think that what we see in more conservative states, so conservative states have been historically more likely to have legalized through a voter referendum, through a ballot initiative, than through a legislative process. Virginia legalized through a legislative process, but at that time, the state was controlled by Democrats. Now the state has a Republican-controlled administration and Democratic-controlled House and Senate, which is not really making it any better. But that is a state that legislatively enacted personal cultivation, included personal cultivation in its effort to legalize. You will see oftentimes personal cultivation included in ballot measure language. But let's look at Florida right now. Florida has been trying to get legalization on the ballot for some time now, and so in an effort not to violate the sort of single subject rule in Florida when it comes to constitutional amendments, the language that's got on the ballot, they do not include personal cultivation. Is this ideal? No. But is it better than continuing to arrest tens of thousands of Floridians every year? Absolutely. So I would say that when we have not seen a lot of successful legislative attempts to legalize in conservative controlled states, and we are sort of as legalization efforts push forward into the remaining states that haven't legalized, you're going to see a lot more conservative efforts around it, I think is a good way to frame it. And even though it may not be conservatives that are pushing this effort, you're going to see language that is trying to deal with the reality of their governing bodies. So you're far more likely to see no personal cultivation. And really, I think that's what the model is. The model is no. The model is conservatives. And by conservatives, I mean conservative lawmakers. I don't mean voters. Voters are very different than their elected officials. Elected conservatives tend to, thumb their nose at legalization on the whole, and have not, in my experience, been particularly favorable to personal cultivation. So thanks for your question. You'd love direct from farmer options tree. Okay. Hey, Ryan, happy Friday to you. Ryan says, need to legalize the retail sales nationwide on the federal level. And listen, Ryan, that is sort of a thing. In order to legalize at the federal level, as much as that means, what has to happen is, as you know, Ryan, Congress has to pass a bill that would remove marijuana from the Federal Controlled Substances Act entirely and allow states to set their own policies without threat of federal interference. So, for example, what does this look like? Well, tobacco is not scheduled, and states set their own policies free from threat of federal interference. Alcohol is not scheduled. Now, both of these two substances are objectively far less safe than cannabis. But alcohol also, states set their own policies without threat of federal interference. Now, there are some rules in these two spaces that everyone has to play by, but it's not like cannabis where every single state is different when it comes to legal and not legal and what's legal, and right, there's some sort of basic ground rules. So that's really what needs to happen. And Ryan, not every state has ABC, like state-run liquor. Yeah, Tree, listen, like, I think it sucks that that's where Florida is. Tree says, boo, Florida, and its lack of homegrown. It's also fine to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And if you're trying to thread the needle on like what you can do in the state, and that's, something's going to be a poison pill, or it's going to create legal ramifications, like violating the single subject rule, perhaps, it's okay to craft something that will work for your state and come back and do more the next year. Changing cannabis laws is not a one and done, literally ever, in any state. Postmaster General asks, how can someone start a marijuana business in California? I mean, that's a great question, but it's a really excellent question for any cannabis business organization out there. And there's a lot of them. NORML represents consumers, only consumers, and we're the only organization that does that. So definitely connect with a business organization for cannabis entrepreneurs. You could connect with California NORML and ask them for some recommendations. They probably have some great ideas on that. Johnny on Instagram, I can't show Instagram comments on this feed. It doesn't work. But I can say to you that Johnny on Instagram says, Ohio Democrat DeWine was completely opposed to legalization in that state. However, once the voters spoke, he was fully supportive of getting Ohioans full accessibility to purchase. Yeah, absolutely. We saw Ohio make sure that sales started not just on time, but ahead of schedule, and in a very pragmatic way, Johnny. And it's certainly not unique. We see elected officials change their tune and evolve on cannabis policy. Hey, I mean, that's what we do here. We help people change their mind. We help you help people change their minds. And it's fine when they do. It's great. We high five them, welcome them to the right side of history, and all move on together. And that's a great example of someone who wasn't necessarily sure about it or didn't think they could be publicly supportive. But ultimately, when the voters spoke, he changed his mind. We witnessed that evolution with the former governor Northam in Virginia. He was lieutenant governor before running for governor. And when he started campaigning for governor, he was like, well, I support medical, which he'd helped us get here. He's like, I support decrim, but I'm not ready to say as a physician that I support legalization. And given the political climate in Virginia at that point in time, we assured him all he needed to do was talk about medical access and say he was all in on decrim. And he got elected, and during his term, we legalized the medical program. We passed decrim, and the next year, 1 year after passing decrim, we passed adult use because we all just did what everyone was comfortable with and got there together. It's it's how people are. It's okay. Check the comments and see if I missed any. Yeah, Tree, in Florida, we've seen some really crazy stuff. These quote hemp companies dumping boatloads of cash into the DeSantis PAC to oppose Amendment 3, which is absurd to think that. So here's these unregulated hemp companies that are selling who knows what and want to continue selling their who knows what to cannabis consumers, and are fine saying, hey, I don't like Amendment 3 because it doesn't work for my business model. So what I'm going to do, consumers that I want to buy my product, is I'm going to lobby against your best interests. I'm going to fund opposition to make sure that you can still be arrested. And Florida has some of the harshest marijuana laws in the country. So yeah, reducing arrests is great. Huh. Is it really raining in Virginia? It's not raining in Richmond. Yeah, it looks like it could. Hi, Christopher. Good to see you. Yeah, Ryan, I would agree. It's sad that Republicans don't have the same enthusiasm for legalizing cannabis like Democrats do. And you're not wrong. That's the truth. Again, a lot of this is determined by age. There's a higher percentage of old people who identify as Republican, and that definitely impacts the numbers you see on polling when it comes to supporting cannabis legalization. Old people are less supportive of it. You have more old people in the Republican Party than you do in the more people in the Republican Party are old. And then when you get to and that's voters, but then when you get to politicians, it's like night and day. And this garbage refrain that I hear so often at the state level when it comes to legalization and Republican electeds is, oh, well, I support it, but like just not that bill. Get out of here with that nonsense. It's not working for me. Mm-mm. Hi, Instagram people. Good to see you too. Oh, you're talking about. Also, I just noticed that your name is Pot Master General. Okay. Uh, Shipping seeds. Okay. Listen, I understand where the DEA is on seeds, and they're not wrong. Seeds do not contain THC. Seeds, unless it's on them because they weren't washed. There's no THC in there, so technically the DEA considers those seeds to meet the legal threshold, the federal definition of hemp. However, in some states, and again, I'm going to use Virginia as an example, in Virginia's definition of marijuana, the word seeds is in there. And since cannabis sales for adult use, cannabis sales outside the medical program are not permitted in Virginia, selling seeds in Virginia that are marijuana is not legal. Is it legal and can I get away with it are always two different questions, and this is no way meant to be construed as legal advice. Please consult your own attorney on that. But every state's got different laws, so that's probably a good place to start. And I would say not Virginia. Not a good place to ship things to. Oh, Wade, I don't disagree with your comment, but I'm not going to show that. Hi, Samuel. Good to see you, Samuel at the fish shows in Dover, Delaware. I hope that you've got your NORML pin. I hope you're hustling for the good NORML name, Samuel. Christopher asks, why all in black? My dude, that's all I wear. I mean, I'm actually not wearing black jeans today. I'm wearing regular jeans, so joke's on you. Unless I have on a dress shirt, my t-shirt is black. So that's what's happening. But thanks for noticing. Ryan says Republicans would rather not talk about it and leave it alone, where Democrats are actively pushing forward. That is, again, an accurate statement. Yeah, some younger ones are yep, I would agree. Let's read this comment from What It Do on Twitter. Says, so bulk options are really where the value price point is as a consumer. And then goes on to say, I'm most able to benefit from my personal need in order to function. So you can get if you can make a bulk purchase, it's cheaper for you as a consumer. But I also mentioned personal cultivation doesn't seem to be the push. Yeah, absolutely. That can be left off the table in some states. Someone also said something about policymakers not having as much experience on this policymaking, and you would agree. Yeah, that's absolutely the case. I see that at the legislative level when they're trying to make cannabis policy in a sort of legislative conversation, and they're making absurd choices. I see it less so at the regulator level, but case in point, and a fantastic segue into the news that I need to be covering. Let's look at Missouri. Okay, so in Missouri, and this is wild. This is literally wild. In Missouri, they God, I hate this so much. There was a lung injury crisis a few years ago. This was sort of not right before. This is before the pandemic, and it's referred to as the EVALI, EVALI, or VALI, VALI, the EVALI crisis. And it's e-cigarette and vaping associated lung injury. And it turns out that this Ivali crisis, they were able to determine that these lung injuries, and people died. A lot of people died. It wasn't like, the crisis wasn't people having a cough, it was death. And they were like, why are these people dying? It turns out that when you inhale vitamin E acetate, well, that can kill you. So vitamin E acetate does not belong in cannabis, full stop. It sure does not belong in legal regulated products. And a number of states immediately banned it altogether. Now, in Virginia, it would already have not been permissible under the existing medical cannabis program at that time. It would not have been permissible to have any amount of vitamin E acetate in products. But that regulator, which at the time was Board of Pharmacy, still was like, no, we want it to be explicit. And so they belt and suspended that immediately in adopted language that was like no vitamin E acetate in cannabis products. And then we subsequently went and codified that language. And is it necessary? No, because it wouldn't be permissible anyhow. But again, here's an example of a regulator making a good public health choice, even if it was like a little extra. Meanwhile, we've got Missouri, who just said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to increase the amount of vitamin E acetate that is permitted in regulated cannabis products. Why? 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 People died. People died. And we know why they died. In the interest of public safety, you weren't like, you know what, we want to allow none of this. You were like, well, it's a little bit more. Okay, so why did they put vitamin E acetate into, this is primarily goes into vape products, is to make the viscosity more appealing. Nothing should go in your vape products other than cannabis oil, nothing else. You don't need to put anything else in there. No vitamin E acetate, no medium chain triglycerides. No, just cannabis oil, the end. So yeah, sometimes regulators make stupid decisions because they don't know what they're doing. And I, for one, cannot wait. Hello, literally any investigative reporter out there, what for-profit entity convinced Missouri regulators that this was an increase they needed? Because it wasn't a member of the general public who showed up and went, hello, Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, I would like more vitamin E acetate in my regulated cannabis products. That didn't happen. This is some for-profit entity that lobbied someone to make this happen. So who wants to spill the tea? You can email me at normal@normal.org. Let's find out and out them for making bad choices. Anyhow, also read our blog, Missouri NORML affiliate questions state regulators' decision to permit toxic additive in certain cannabis products. Please read and share that because that's disgusting. All right. At both the state and federal level, not certain what you mean. You're welcome. What it do? Thanks for the kind words. Ryan, I'm also glad that you can finally grow your own and not go to jail for having a stem or a seed. Hi, Jeremy. Good to see you. Oh, tree. Tree says some of the same Florida regulated cannabis companies are now also selling the big quotes on this tree hemp THCA. Florida is crazy, and I can say this because I was born there. Um, who tree? Ah, either tell me in the comments or like tell me in the comments or email me because gross. Also, literally anyone watching THCA flower, that's weed. It's just it's weed. That's if you go to a dispensary right now and you buy flower, that number you see next to it that's got the percentage, that's all the THC in that flower, except for a very tiny amount that decarboxylates during the curing process. The amount of THC in that flower is present in the acid form as THCA till you heat it up. I'm not prepared to answer questions about hurricanes today, Ryan, but please let me know. Yeah, that stuff is gross. That stuff is gross, Tree. Jeremy, yeah, Virginia could be competitive, absolutely. But that's going to require a bill. That's the problem, is the bill. So we've got Democrats in Virginia writing garbage legislation. That's right. Now, I'm not talking about, let me be super clear. I'm not talking about Senator Adam Evans' bill. His office has done remarkable work listening to actual experts on this issue. But we've got some garbage legislation out there that's, come at the behest of a Republican, a former Republican, elected who's now a lobbyist. And, look, if you have a client that gives you a bunch of cash and is like, I want a bill that looks like this, then sure, you can drag that to some member of the House and Senate and get them to carry it for you. It doesn't make it good, and it's not my job to tell you your bill's good when it's not. Anyhow, we've got Republicans and Democrats making terrible decisions about legislation for retail sales in Virginia and putting forth bills that you have to work really hard to make them any level of palatable. And then cramming the bill through with like one Republican vote or whatever on each chamber. And then it gets to the governor, who, of course, is going to veto it. So to that point, Virginians, you have to elect people who don't suck on cannabis. If you elect terrible people, you will get terrible policies. And right now you have a terrible administration who likes drug dealers better than regulated operators. So make good choices and know that when someone who doesn't typically do cannabis in the Virginia legislature shows up and is like, oh, I'm pretending to care about this issue now, they're pretending to care about it because someone wrote them a check. So don't just take it at face value. And I'll tell you what's up. But yeah, it could. It's just got to be a bill. It's not like CCA can issue more licenses without legislation. Anne, you would love to come lobby in DC? I would love for you to come lobby in DC, Anne. Tree, I do not know what type 3 means. Can you buy hemp seeds in Virginia? Yes, you can purchase hemp seeds in Virginia. That retailer is supposed to be registered with the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services in order to sell hemp. But you can buy seeds all day long, hemp or labeled hemp in Virginia. Skyline, you're killing me. Oh, you're caught in the fire. comments, everyone. Listen. I gotta catch up. Can you give it to me one more time? Give you what one more time? Our vape Potmaster General asks on Instagram, are vape pens more harmful than smoking a joint? Yes and no. Isn't that a great answer? So, first of all, it depends on what's in it. But let's assume that we're comparing two clean products. You've got a flower product that is clean, well regulated, clean. You've got a vape product, a concentrate product that is clean and well regulated. So those two parts being equal, and you said a joint, so that's going to involve combustion. You're going to get more lung irritation out of combustion because there's smoke involved than in a vaporization product where there's no combustion and there's going to be less inhalation because the product is concentrated, so the consumer can self-titrate their dosing and is not going to have to vape as much as they would have to smoke. So there is, in the clean, well-regulated product, going to be less exposure to potential irritants in a vape pen. If you want the least amount of lung irritation, then that's going to be vaporizing flower. So heating the flower up to the point of decarboxylation. It's releasing all of those cannabinoids, and then it's going to be inhaled, and there's no smoke. So those are those answers. Okay. Jeremy, is what a synthetic additive? Christopher, I suspect you know the answer to this question. Thanks for playing along, friend. Christopher says, where are we at with Schedule 3? Public comments have been submitted, and that period has closed. That's where we're at in that timeline. Now, also, there have been requests made for hearings. And if those requests have been granted, but there have been requests made for hearings. Christopher goes on to ask, is that still going to happen? Well, it is going to continue moving forward. The process will continue moving forward under this administration. I can tell you that. So during the Biden administration, the process will continue moving forward. Christopher also asks, says Schedule 3 will change the tone of the rest of the legalization conversation. Yes, absolutely. That is one of the most notable aspects of this entire rescheduling petition process, is that this is the federal government officially abandoning its flat earth policy on cannabis, as for decades said that it lacks any medical utility, and they have instead changed their mind and said, wait, we see that cannabis does have medical utility, so we're changing our opinion on that. That absolutely changes the way that everyone talks about cannabis, because it takes away that whiny little trope of, oh, but the marijuana is a dangerous Schedule 1 narcotic. Oh, the federal government disagrees with that. Is it still going to happen, though? It's going to continue. The process is going to continue moving forward, like I said, during this administration. But the next administration, who knows what could happen? First of all, we don't know which administration it's going to be. We know that a Harris administration would continue this process. We do not know what a Trump administration would do. We haven't even heard his soon answer on whether or not he's going to vote for Amendment 3. He just said soon. I don't know what that means. Christopher. Mm, yes. Um, yes, what it do it is in fact vitamin E acetate in Missouri, and they would like more of it in their products. That's better than killing your consumers. I doubt Big Vitamin E is pushing it, but someone is. I have an idea actually who is stupid enough to ask for something like that. Skyline. Oh my god. Gosh. Okay, I'm just scrolling through the comments trying to find some language. Trying to find something I can actually say out loud. Jeremy, should you write propose a bill? No, but you should call bullshit on the existing ones when you see them come back next year. Oh, it doesn't matter. The governor's not going to sign it anyhow. Christopher and Anne, you should definitely come lobby in DC. Look, Chris, I don't. I, I'm tired of pretending like keeping secrets or not being honest about their terrible decisions is going to help move policy forward. If you don't like what I have to say about your policies, then make better choices. If you're making stupid choices, then I'm going to tell people. Thank you, Tree, for explaining to me type 1, type 2, and type 3. Got it, got it, got it. Christopher, I don't know. He has not, Trump indicated he was going to tell everyone soon how he was going to vote on Amendment 3. It sounded like a call for checks to me, but he hasn't said anything yet. Jeremy asked if clean vape products come from clean flower products. They can, but once the oil is, once the plant juice is sucked out of the plant, so I used to explain it to Virginia legislators, it could be remediated and some contaminants could be, it can be further cleaned up once it's extracted. It should be further cleaned up once it's extracted. But a good place to start is from clean flour. Roy asks if Arkansas will adopt adult use this year. And I'm going to say, Roy, that all signs point to no. I'm going to say that. Arkansas had the chance recently to enact adult use, and they didn't. They didn't. There was a lot of whining and complaining from cannabis activists who didn't like that business model. And so this is a great example of people going, oh, well, I don't like this business model. So I would rather people go to jail until you get me legalization that's the flavor that works best for my financial motivations. Now, there is an effort underway in Arkansas right now to expand their medical cannabis program. I'm trying to find it. It's a constitutional amendment. Arkansas Medical Cannabis Amendment of 2024. That's what I know. It would expand medical cannabis access in the state. It's not qualified for the ballot yet. When it is, it'll be on NORML Election Central. That's at normal.org/election. John, I was just thinking about Pennsylvania. John says Pennsylvania will probably be the last state to legalize marijuana. It won't be. I think it'll be like Idaho. But Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania can do some stuff this next year. They can get it together. What the world's going on there? They can get it together. You got some Republicans in Pennsylvania who aren't terrible on this issue. Christopher, I will not run for office, but thanks so much for asking. Yes, and you can steal my elections have consequences line. It's not mine alone. Somebody else said it, and then I said, but also, if you want, I'm sure you can get some art from Sherry that says elections have consequences. You can find them on Instagram at @OSherryBomb. Elections have consequences. That's why you need to make good choices, friends. Oh gosh, I'm not memorizing all of those types. CJ. North Carolina is not going to be the last either tree, but I really think like the worst is like Idaho. I want to tell you the news. I did some news. There's a couple more. We have we have a few more newses. A few more newses. Okay, we'll do them real quick. Ready? Oh, that's not how that works. I have to click so many buttons today. This is too many. There's a federal survey done. We nearly 1/3 of middle-aged adults in this study. In this survey, middle age is 35 to 50. I guess that means I'm not middle-aged in that survey. Senior citizen. Anyhow, nearly 1/3 of adults aged 35 to 50 acknowledged consuming cannabis in the past year, and nearly 1 in 5 consume monthly. And this is according to federally funded survey data that was compiled by the University of Michigan. Check it out on the NORML blog. Me too, Jeremy. So old. Which is great because it means you're not dead, so you're winning. North Dakota swing state voters, federal survey. Cool. We did Missouri as well. This one is gonna be so quick because look, I think we do something about this like every week now. Paul and I were just joking about this, how it's the same thing over and over, but that's fine. People need to hear it. There was a study done on opioid-dependent subjects. And the subjects in this study, in what will come as no surprise to any of you, subjects reported that, or researchers concluded that, quote, cannabis co-use assisted in developing patterns of reduced opioid use in a number of ways. So these subjects in the study said that cannabis helped them manage their cravings, and withdrawal symptoms. Okay, stop telling me about, yes, I'm very aware of that, StreamYard. Thank you. Super helpful. Super helpful. Last news, the last news, the last one. Here it comes. Yay. And the last one is, in fact, a majority of consumers obtain their cannabis from licensed dispensaries. In this survey, in fact, 77% of respondents, oh, good grief, why is this thing publishing one at a time? That is not helpful. You're just going to see it a bunch on some of these. Oh, good grief. Let's try this again. There we go. The 77% of survey respondents said that they obtained all, quote, all, or quote, most of their cannabis-related products from authorized retailers. So that's great news. I mean, obviously, we've seen numerous surveys like this before, but some people, Glenn Youngkin, some people don't think that legalization helps reduce the illicit market in a state, even though there's a whole website full of studies that say otherwise. There you go. Christopher, your last question. Thank you, Christopher. That's a different, you've phrased your question differently, Christopher. So I'll just allow you I'll allow you to ask me what my favorite kind of cannabis is, just in general. My favorite kind is legal cannabis. I don't care what someone's doing with it, as long as it's legal. That's not true. I don't think you should give it to your children or your pets unless authorized medically. So I do care. Literally nothing. I am enjoying iced tea that I brewed at home, and it has some sugar in it, but not a lot. Yes, exactly, Jeremy. Moderator. I'm the only person here. I'm not moderating anything. One of our Instagrams always cuts off. More people should go follow Virginia NORML on Instagram as well, so that we can stream longer on that platform, on that page. It's like you can only stream for an hour on that page. You don't have enough followers. I think you're only supposed to be able to stream for an hour on most of them, but they let our normals Instagram stream for pretty much however long we want. I guess we have enough there. Christopher, you're so welcome. Appreciate it. Friends, this has been delightful. I can't wait to find out what's in store for us this weekend. You all just terrify me with what's potentially going to happen. But regardless, I would super love it if you would hit that like, follow, or subscribe button wherever you're watching so you never miss when NORML goes live. I have three quick things to tell you about when it comes to upcoming events. Our Suncoast NORML chapter streams live on Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. Their podcast is called The Rotation. You can check that out on YouTube. Lehigh Valley NORML is one of our chapters in Pennsylvania, and Lehigh Valley NORML is having their annual picnic on September 7th. From 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can find that on Facebook. Oh, super. This is all posting just to YouTube, my fave. So I'm going to do this all over again. And then coming up in December, this one takes a little bit of planning. So I'm going to tell you about it over and over and over. But the NORML Key West Legal Seminar is December 5th through 7th at the Pier House Resort and Spa. You can register at norml.org/Key West. If you're an attorney and you need continuing legal education credits, our legal seminars are fully accredited in every state that requires CLEs for their practicing attorneys. If you don't need the CLEs, or if you don't need the CLEs, if you're not an attorney, we have a discounted rate for you. So we got you either way. Get your CLEs or get a discounted rate if you don't need them. Normal. Got real excited there. norml.org/Key West. Come hang out in Key West with me, with Keith, the founder of NORML, and Paul Armentano, the deputy director. Let's do that. It'll be great. There are all of the links again, since it didn't post them anywhere but YouTube. Hey, Johnny, you want a Cincinnati chapter? That would be neat. Yeah, you can get in touch directly with Ohio NORML, or you can email me at chapters@norml.org. If there's a state chapter, we will refer any local requests to the state chapter first. Hey, if I didn't get to your question, I'm sorry. Email me at norml@norml.org. It's a real email address, and all of us at NORML see it. So do that. Do that. That'd be great. And hey, thanks for hanging out with us on a Friday afternoon. We try to do this show every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So again, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss when NORML goes live. If you like this news and you want it all in your inbox, great. I can make that happen for you. And here's how. On Thursday, the NORML news of the week comes out at about 4:20 p.m. Eastern, because we're funny, and you can get that right in your inbox. Then again, we do the Saturday version called the Weekend Weed Read. There might be new news in it, or just might be the same news, but things tend to happen between Thursday and Saturday, so we want to tell you about that again on Saturday. This is going to bring you the latest and the greatest in cannabis policy, science, and other news. So please head to norml.org/subscribe. Make sure you check the Weekend Weed Read box while you're there, so you always get that on Saturdays as well. I'm sorry, yes, it does come via email, Jeremy, but you can also read all these stories on our Facebook, our Instagram, our LinkedIn, our Twitter, and live here with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube on Fridays. So I hope we're getting you the information however you want it. No, I cannot send you the news in a wax sealed envelope. Appreciate it though. Hey, this has been great, but I gotta go home and do stuff. Have a weekend. So everyone, hey, have a great weekend. It's been great hanging out with all of you, and I hope to see you back here next time. Bye-bye.